because they're part of IM. So we're going to go over some number routines and math language routines. And I'm going to give you the option of what we spend our time on. A lot of them we have adapted so that you can see how to do them in a virtual environment so that you can use them with NTI. And the purpose of these routines is it creates the routine so the student can focus on the actual content instead of figuring out, well, what do I have to do next? What's the next step? What am I supposed to do? So the more we use them, the more content they're going to get into, and so the more we're going to be able to fill in the gaps that they have and get into that grade level material. So we are going to do a poll everywhere. Up at the top, you see respond. You're going to go to this site, and it's going to ask you to rank these. What you'll do is once you see them, you just click on the bar and pull it to where you want it. So the one that you want to see the most will be at the top to the least. So highest I want to see to the lowest want to see. So if you can go to that poll everywhere and respond, and the responses will show up on my screen. Okay, so it looks like we're going to do an info gap first, then a number talk, and then stronger and clearer. If time allows, then we'll get to which one doesn't belong and notice and wonder. On the slide deck, this means I'm going to be jumping around quite a bit. So I'll remind you what slide we're on because there are links that you will need. Okay, so an info gap. Let me go on to the next. There we go. Info gap is at the bottom. We're going to go to slide 32. So you should have, does everybody have the link to the slide deck, or do I need to copy that?
No, if you'll put that in the
chat. Yep. So the purpose of an info gap is to create a need for students to communicate. Like they are going to have to communicate in some way because one person has some information and the partner has the other information, and only together can that information help them solve the problem. So it forces them to communicate. So you're going to have two students solving similar problems. One student has a problem card and one has the data card. Each student has some of the necessary information, and they gain information through their back and forth conversation. But they're both going to solve the problem at the same time when they're ready, and then they're going to share and listen to each other's reasoning in response.
So they don't actually work together to solve the problem.
They will work together to gather the information that they need, then they will each solve it on their own, and then they will share their responses and reasoning after they each solve it on their own first.
Yep.
Okay. So one thing that will help in doing an info gap is to have this posted so students can see the process. And I added this red line here because this is where it's really important that they both say that they're ready and have enough information to solve the problem. So the data card and problem card, they both read their information, but the data card starts. They're going to say, what specific information do you need? And the problem card will ask a question. Can you tell me how many apples are in a bucket? And then the data card will say, why do you need that information? And the problem card says, I need that information because I have to find out how many buckets, how many apples there are in 10 buckets. And the reason that process is important is because the problem card knows what the question is. The data card doesn't have the question, but they have all the information needed to solve the problem card. And when we get to that red line where the problem card says, I have enough information to solve this problem, then the person with the data card has to be able to figure out what the question is before they both can start solving. So by asking, why do you need that information? Then as a data card person, I'm making note because I'm trying to figure out this question. So before we both start solving, we have to know what the other's card basically says. So the problem card needs to make sure they have the information. The data card has to be sure that they can find the question that they're starting to solve. Okay.
Are there preset cards that are already made, sets for different grade levels?
Mm-hmm. So those are all part of the IM program. They are usually not in the first unit because the first unit is used to establish routines and procedures. But unit 2, you'll start to see them. They usually fall at the end of the unit, not at the beginning, because there's a lot of background information that you're going to need in order to access the problem. So this is a great formative assessment at the very end to see what students know and are able to do before you give that end of unit assessment as well. So I'll show you an example, and then we're going to try them together. And yes, Jeremy said that they're under the Black Line Masters in IM. So if you go to the unit overviews, there's always the unit downloads, and they have all the Black Line Masters that you can find there. Okay. So here's an example. Okay, I'm going to be the data card. Okay, so that's this side here. You see, well, go back. My name is there, but it's covered. So I'm going to be the data card, and I do not have Dwayne in here with me today. So you guys are going to be like my class, and we are going to do this info gap. So you have the problem card, and I have the data card. So we're going to pretend that you don't see my data card, okay? But just for purposes of seeing how the routine works, you do need to see it. But normally you wouldn't see each other's card. So when somebody has a question, if you can just type it in the chat, and then we can start solving this problem card. So my question to you is, what information do you need? Okay, first question I got is, how many boxes are there? Why do you need that information? If you want to just unmute once I ask your question, you can do that.
If we want to find out how long it takes them to move all the boxes, then I want to know how many boxes there are total. I have another question too, but I know that part of the thing I need to answer the question I have is how many boxes are there total?
Okay. So there are 72 boxes that need to be moved. Okay. So my next question I see is, what rate can they move boxes? My question to you, that came from Lee. So Lee, why do you need that information?
I need to know that information because it's asking me how long, which is a function of time, that they can move boxes. So that is a function of boxes being moved over time, which is a rate.
Okay. Can you be more specific in your question? Like, who is they?
Andre and Han are moving boxes working at a constant rate. And I need to know what that constant rate is.
Okay, so you need both the rate for Andre and Han.
Right.
Okay. Andre can move 4 boxes every half hour. And Han can move 5 boxes every half hour.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So I still have some more questions. Remember, when you're ready to solve, you just have to let me know, and then I have to make sure I know the question and we can move on. But the next question I have is, how fast is Andre moving boxes? So Caitlin, can you tell me why you need that information?
Same reason.
So did I already answer that question for you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And see, if we were in a real classroom, it would be live. So once Lee asked his question, Caitlin would probably be like, oh yeah, I already got that. Kathleen asked, how many boxes can they move per hour? Kathleen, why do you need that information?
I want to find out how long it's going to take them to get the job done So if I know how many boxes and how many they can collectively move in 1 hour, I can figure out how long it would take them. But I think from what you told Lee about the half hour, I could figure that out by myself without asking you.
Okay, that's good because I do not have that information.
Yeah. So when we're ready to solve, what do? We just tell you we're ready to solve?
So are we ready to solve? Heads straight,
Yes.
or thumbs up? Okay.
Yeah.
So before we can solve, I have to make sure I know what the question is. And I think, so I knew we were moving boxes and we had to move all the boxes, but then we asked that question about the rate and time. So is it how long to move all the boxes? Is that the question I'm trying to find?
How long will it take Andre and Han to move all the boxes? Yes.
Okay, great. So then now everybody, you will solve and I will solve, and then we will share our responses. Okay, so I'm going to pause and give about 3 to 5 minutes for you to solve this problem. So yes, you are going to solve this problem. Everybody should be working. Okay, so I have an answer. Is there anybody else in the room that has an answer that they would like to share with me? Jeremy? Okay, would you like me to share first or you want to share first? Okay, thank you. So I had my notes up here and I'll show it up. I put just a little scribble of words, keywords I heard whenever you were asking questions, so it would help me figure out the question. But then I knew from my card that Andre, every half hour, he moved 4 boxes. And so I created a double number line, the half hours along the top and the number of boxes on the bottom. And I got to 1 hour, he can move 8 boxes. So that was Andre. And then I went to Han and made another double number line and did the same thing. And I found that at 1 hour, he can move 10 boxes. So in 1 hour, both Andre and Han, and it's backwards, they can move 18 boxes because 8 plus 10 is 18. And I was like, well, that's how many they can move every hour together, but I needed to know how many for all 72 boxes. So then I went to a table, and so every hour was 18. So after 2 hours, it was 36, 3 was 54, 4, we had 72. So at 4 hours, they were able to move all the boxes. What strategy did you use, Jeremy?
Mine was more, well, just the arithmetic based. I guess I didn't write down the tables. We kind of did it the same way because with the rates, I knew between the two of them, they can move 9 boxes every half hour. There's 2 half hours in an hour, so 9 times 2 is 18. And then you've got 2 ways to do it. You could take 72 divided by 18, which is 4. Which is the total number of boxes divided by the boxes per hour. Or I know that 18 twice is 36, so that's 2 hours. 36 twice is 72, so that's 4 hours.
Oh, I really liked your number sense there, doubling and halving. I didn't even think of adding how many boxes they did together in a half hour. So, I mean, you were ahead of me on that. That was awesome. So, yeah. Great. So we both agree it's 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that would end the routine. And these come in double sets. So that was one. We could now get the second card to this set and we could switch roles, or we could keep our same roles and try another problem. But at the end, we both have to agree on the answer. Okay. So what questions do you have about what you just saw before I'm going to put you in breakout rooms and let you try them on your own? You can either unmute or chat. It doesn't matter.
Seemed pretty straightforward.
This is definitely one that you need to model with your kids, just like we did here, where the teacher is the data card and they're the problem card. It is a routine that you have to practice with them. The questions that they ask are not going to be as straightforward as ours. You'll see that in some of the ones you practice. There's one about a bicycle, so they'll be like, well, what type of bike do you have? And if you notice, on one of the questions, we asked what was their rate that they were moving the boxes, and it said they, and you saw how I asked an additional question to clarify, because
Right.
on my data card, I didn't have for both, but I did
Right.
have the rate for each of them. So it's okay
Yeah.
for that data card to ask a clarifying question throughout as well.
Yeah. And I'm sure the students there are distractors there.
Yes.
There's more information, and so many students think they have to use all the information.
Yes. And that's accommodation that we talked about for ECE students, because your ECE students can do this routine. So maybe like the ratio, they may not ask that question. So maybe that's what you take out and they just have the 3 pieces of information. Or maybe you get it down to just 2 pieces of information that they need when you first start. And like I said, this is one you have to practice. So don't just think you're going to just put the words up there and they're going to follow it. It'll be a mess. So definitely model and practice it with them. And there are videos on YouTube too of this routine, so you can even watch the video with them so they get the overall feel and then practice it with them.
Yeah. And maybe at some point during the presentation, you can tell us kind of a rank of the routines in terms of difficulty.
So I would definitely rank this one as probably the hardest one.
Gotcha.
Just because it does require a lot of steps. And that's why I say you put this here, because it is a process. What people forget is to say, why do you need that information? They will forget to ask that. And that's why it takes a lot of practice to do. But other than that, the other ones are pretty, you can do those easily. Okay. Are you ready to try them? So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so you're going to be in breakout rooms with 2 people, you and one other person. One of you need to determine who's going to do the data card, who's going to be the problem card. That's why you needed the slide deck, because they are linked here. If you're the data card, you'll open the data card. If you're the problem card, you open the problem card. And you have a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade example. So you can choose the grade level you want to do. And if you get through it before I get to the group or bring you back, then you can flip roles and try another one. Okay, so as you're working, think about what kind of supports I may need to build in and what I need to do when I'm introducing this routine to my students. Okay.
Okay. How do we get to the breakout room?
I'm going to do it right now. I got to see how many people we got. We have 18.
Sarah, do you mind to leave me out so I can hop into some of the Olmsted groups, please?
Okay, let me, before I do that, make you a co-host, and hopefully it works today.
That's okay.
Where'd you go? Too far down. Okay.
Yes, it says you are now co-host. Thank you.
I'm going to do the 8 rooms, and some people may have a group of 3, which is okay. Okay. So rooms are open for you to try.
The slide that she sent us, the AIS number routine, you can click on like the data card or the problem card.
Okay, and that's how did she send it? Like I wasn't there when it very first started. I didn't get any of that.
Yeah, it took me a while. If you go back to the chat, I don't know if you can go back to the chat, but if you go back to the
chat here in the breakout room. So check your chat. You should have the document, the slide deck linked there.
Man, this is crazy.
You find it?
No, I didn't. What I got was it says Google Slides, create.
Yes. Yep, click into that, and you're gonna go to slide 36.
Slide 36.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Did we get there?
I'm on 31 and sliding.
Okay.
36. I'm on slide 36. So Vincent, is it correct, Vincent?
Yes,
Okay, so are you still on here too?
I am.
No, I thought the lady was still on here with us.
Yes, I'm still here. I'm just listening to see if you need any help. So you guys go ahead.
I need help. Tell me what we're supposed to be doing. Am I just supposed to read slide 36 or?
So on 36, one of you will be the data card and one of you will be the problem card. So who wants to be the data card?
Okay, I guess I'll do the data card. I don't know. Is 36 the data card?
The off to the side, on the left-hand side, you'll see a blue word saying data card. And you're going to open that link. And so, Vincent, that would make you the problem card.
Right. And do I just read which one, or?
We're going to decide what grade level. Do we want to do 6th, 7th, or 8th grade?
I don't see anything blue on the side.
Let me share my screen. So you're on slide 36?
I'm on slide 36.
And you see the data card here? Where my cursor is?
I'm getting nothing but card 36. Do I need to come out of this?
Probably, because you're just looking at, you're not in your Zoom. Go back to your Zoom.
Okay. Okay, back to Zoom. Gotcha.
And do you see my screen now?
Yes, I see data
Okay.
card.
So you see the data card. If you click on that, then it will open up the document that has the different grade level data cards.
So it's asking me to leave it, and I'm not leaving again. Oh, okay, wait a minute. Did I just mess something up? Hang on it. Did I leave the room again?
No, you don't need to leave the room. You just stay right here. Did it open up your data card?
No, I just have a picture of you, a full view of you.
Okay. So this is the hard part because you got to toggle between windows. So go back to your slide deck now, and you saw where I had the data card link, and find that link on there.
Okay, go back to. Oh, this is crazy. Just trying to maneuver through this thing, that's all.
Yeah. I know it's difficult. I'm lucky I got 2 screens. I wouldn't be able to do it without it. So totally get it.
Okay, because it's trying to make me do a new Zoom, and I don't need to leave, you told me.
Mm-mm. No.
Come out.
What grade level do you want to try? I can copy the text and put it in a private chat to you.
The 6th grade.
6th grade?
Yes, 6th grade.
Okay. Okay, so Chris, in the chat, you should have a private chat from me that contains the information on the data card.
Okay, sixth grade information gap.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
to start, Chris, you'll say, Vincent, what information do you need? And then you'll provide him with information that he may need.
Okay, Vincent, what information do you need?
I need to know the price for each of the devices.
Okay, device A costs.
Wait. Why do you need that information?
Oh, okay. Why do you need that information?
I need that information because the question is asked I need to know how much.
You'll get used to Maya. She's in there all the time.
Okay. How far did Mai travel?
Okay, and why would you need that information?
But I'm not supposed.
9,000 divided by 300 anyway.
Ultimately, yeah, that's what it's going to end up being.
The equation.
Well, not the equation, because the equation you're writing like to represent their path, right? You know what's going on?
Yeah, I was trying to find a way to write it.
So I'm assuming in 7th grade you would set it up as, I mean, I don't know because I don't get there in 6th grade, but in terms of the speed, right? The minutes, because it's who will arrive at the park first. So instead of, ultimately you're trying to find
the distance. Okay, so 900.
How long? Yeah.
So 900 is equal to the speed times the time.
Oh, I
Right.
get you. So 9,000 equals 300 T.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my equation, I got 900 equals 300 times T. With T equaling 3 for Noah. And then the next one I have 800 equals 2 times T.
Don't forget the
8,000.
1,000. Yeah, it's okay.
My kids do the same thing, and I be
Yeah.
messing up the same way.
Right. So the only
diff equals.
So if you're writing a full equation, the only difference would be, like you came up with an expression. It's asking you for an equation.
How did I come up? I got a T in it.
Yes. So you have 9,000 equals 300 T and 8,000 equals 250 T. Those are expressions. Well, I mean, it doesn't have an equal sign, but I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know. I guess in my head, it should look like D equals something. So like you would.
I got D equals S times T. With the D equal being the distance, but we know the D.
True.
So that's why I put the D in there. And we know the S, so I put the S in there. The only one we don't know is the T.
Is the T. No, that works. I mean, like I said, I don't know what this is supposed to look like in 7th grade. Is that what you would accept?
Tell the other person just to practice describing things to each other.
Right.
Sarah, this one's hard. We're doing the 8th grade.
So the 8th grade, because it has a graph, right? The data part is a graph. And so, one, that's why you do them like this. You practice because they are. There are some, and I'm like, what question do I need to ask? I don't know what to.
That's where I'm at.
But it also, this is Unit 3, Lesson 3. So what they're doing is they're now getting into proportional relationships, and they're connecting how transformations connect to a linear y equals mx plus b line, slope-intercept form. So when you know where you're at in the unit, it helps you determine what they're going to be doing. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, I wish I taught 8th grade already with this curriculum because it's the one I haven't. And I'm like, I want to know what the story is that leads up to this.
Yeah.
And I want to know what they're making.
Yeah. Yeah. So my favorite one, there's an info gap, and it's in the I think it's in Unit 4, but it is a graph, and so it looks like kind of like, I mean, that's not a very good drawing, but it's basically one graph that's been moved up and down the y-axis. And so when you're doing this, this is with y equals mx plus b, and we did this with our 8th grade teachers, and they immediately went to, well, the slope is this, the y-intercept, what's the y-intercept? So they're asking all these questions about the lines. But then
brains going, look at all these equivalent ratios.
It came after transformations. So once I have one line, then I can ask, did I translate that line up and down the y-axis, and by how much? Because then, okay, you just went down 2 units, so the entire line just shifts. And so once they saw that, they were like, oh, and I was like, I know. I'm like, this is amazing. But when I first looked at it, I totally freaked out because I'm like, this is going to take forever. But knowing that it came after transformations and we can bring that back in, it totally changes how you would do that problem. So
cool. Okay. That's why those lesson narratives are so important, right?
Mm-hmm.
Reading for the whole unit.
Okay, I'm gonna get ready to bring people back. So I'm glad you guys got to try it.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Well, Ralphie, I'll see you in there in a minute.
Thank you.
6th grade, Brenda, it says,
no, don't tell me. I'll tell you what I need to.
I have the data. Okay, you have a problem code. Okay, good.
Yeah,
all right, sounds good.
I'll read it to you. It says a store sells 3 different music devices, device A, device B, and device C. Which of the devices can Jada afford? That's the first question.
So
Second
my question would be to you then. What information do you need to solve this problem?
Okay. What percentage of the money needed for device B does she have? Okay, I need to know how much money she has. Total.
I don't know.
Okay, how much is device B?
Device B is $25.
Okay. How much is device A and C?
Okay, A is $15 and C is $40.
Make sure when you're asking or giving that information, ask her why she's needing that information.
Okay.
Make her think through that.
Well, she's independently wealthy, so money is not enough. So why do you need that information?
Is this the lady you're dating?
I wish. But go ahead.
You said 15, 25, and 40?
Yes. Why do you need that information?
Because I need to figure out the percentage of the money needed for, I need to figure out what percentage of the money needed for device B that she has.
Okay.
But it doesn't say how much money she has?
Well, no. What do you know?
Well, I know that there's 3 different devices.
What else?
And that's basically all I know.
It doesn't tell you anything about how much.
I know how much each device costs, but I don't know.
It doesn't tell you anything about how much Jada has?
No.
Okay, Jada has 60% of the money needed to buy device C.
Okay, so.
Yes, 60% of the money needed to buy device C.
All right.
Okay, so Vincent and Brenda, you guys are doing a fantastic job, like asking the questions and getting clarifying information. I'm going to bring us back, though, because I want to be sure that we get to other routines.
That's fine.
So as you guys were experiencing that, what did you think of if you were in the classroom and had to do this with students? What are some supports that you know that you're going to need to include so that they can complete this routine?
Some sentence starters for each.
Sentence starters, absolutely. So they know like how to start their conversations and have those conversations. Excellent.
And a graphic organizer.
A graphic organizer, absolutely. I like that. That's a really great idea.
Calculator.
Calculator. And I would hesitate on that just because you don't know where you're at in the lesson. So some lessons, yes. Others, that may be the point of the info gap too, is that they do it without a calculator. But yes, absolutely using those tools that they have access to.
A little bit of distance between them so they don't just share the car.
Yes. And I mean, they're middle schoolers. They're going to try and do that. And that's why it's so important to practice this routine with them and get them used to it so that prevents them from doing that. But yes, you're going to have that. They're middle schoolers.
So can I ask you, what is the answer to that 96%?
I don't have it off the top of my head. I can figure it out for you.
Yeah, 96% is correct.
Oh. Thank you.
When you were in your groups too, off to the side of it, I told you what unit and lesson it came from. So if you saw that, then you would notice that they're towards the end of the lesson. The only one that's not is that 8th grade lesson. But that's on purpose because it's introducing the slope-intercept form so that they have to find that information. So it's a way to get them to discover the information that they would need. But most of these are going to be at the end of the unit. So that they have a lot of background information before they access and do this routine. Did you guys like it?
Would they have been practicing the types through the unit? These types of questions through the unit?
I'm sorry, you're going to have to say that again. It broke out.
Will they have been practicing these types of questions already?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's what it's doing is it's presenting the type of problems that they're going to have through this program. And then when they get to this unit, instead of both of them knowing the problem, then each of them have the information the other needs. And so it's going to force them to communicate to try and solve the problem.
Okay.
Okay. What about a backpack artifact? Could this be a backpack artifact?
Yeah, for prepared and resilient learner, they have to bounce back if they're not getting the information they think they should get.
Mm-hmm.
It could also be for collaboration.
Or the good communicator.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would work good, but once again, especially with 6th graders, you're stuck with how they explain it. So you'd almost have to come up with some kind of formal questions about what they did or a reflection sheet or something so that they had a way to explain it in their backpack. Because they do a horrible job of just saying, hey, I sat with my partner and we went over a question together.
Yes, so teaching them the vocab, you want to hear them in their reflection. And that's what we recommend is if you have them do the info gap is that they do some type of reflection after it so they can talk about how their communication skills grew. You know, when I first started asking this question, my partner didn't know what I was asking about because I wasn't using the correct vocab. And when I said the correct vocab, then he was able to give me information. So we definitely recommend that you have that. I know I would love to sit in a backpack presentation and hear about their experience during an info gap because I think they're a lot of fun. They're challenging, but I think they're a lot of fun, and I think the kids will really like them once they get the hang of it.
I could see them making like little mini posters of something like this.
Mm-hmm. Maybe they could create their own. That could even be an assessment that you give them. Create your own info gap for this unit or create your own info gap for this sequence of lessons that we just finished.
Yeah, it would show their creativity too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that is an info gap. I'm going to take us back to our slide deck. And we are going to go to slide 13. So
And
slide 13.
Your name is Sarah, right?
Yes.
Okay, Sarah, when I went to my breakout room,
Yes.
we didn't have, where were the cards located?
They were on slide 36. Did you have access to the slides?
Yep. Yep. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. If you don't have access to the slides, you need to let me know so I can put, I'm going to put it in the chat again.
No, I had it open. We just didn't know that's where they were. Sorry, we missed that.
Okay. Yeah, because we're going to do a Jamboard here in a minute, and so the link is on the slide deck.
Okay.
So we're on slide 13. The next routine that was asked about was the number talk, and you asked me to talk about the complexity of it. This one is not complex. It's just can be scary to implement because you're going to go where the students take you. So they're going to respond to a prompt, and you're going to take all answers, right or wrong, and they're going to have to defend their answers. And some of the strategies they use may be strategies we are not familiar with. And so that's what makes it scary because we don't really know which way they may go. And so for both the number talks and any of these routines, but number talks especially, all of you are part of systems at work. And so part of that is you have teacher leaders who can set up professional learning for your school. So one of those things that you may do is you may stay after school for an hour and everybody practices a number talk with each other. So maybe a 6th grade teacher does a number talk and the rest of the teachers are the students participating, and then you go to 7th and 8th grade and practice these because you're only going to get better the more you do them and practice them. And it's not so much that it's hard, it's what question am I going to ask in case they stray? What am I going to do if they get way off in left field and I got to bring them back? Because that's the scary part. And so use that money to stay after school and plan and practice so that you feel more confident when you get in front of your students.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 13.
13.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So for number talks, you're going to display one problem at a time. You give the students think time. And this is where we get our hand signals. So thumbs up means I have an answer in one strategy. I'll use multiple fingers for each additional strategy that I have. This just means I'm still thinking. So I'm thinking, I have a response in one strategy, I have a response in 2 strategies, 3 strategies, and so on. If they agree whenever we start defending our answers, we do this symbol. So that way you don't have a lot of kids going, yeah, I did that. You just use the hand symbol. But after think time, if you want to add another scaffold in, you can have them turn and talk and share their strategy with their partners. If you're in a group like this, you can have them do a small breakout and discuss their strategies together before coming back. There is a way to do Google Meets with breakouts. It is an extension. It does take them to another Google Meet, so it's not as nice and neat like this in Zoom where I release them and come back, but they do go to another Google Meet and work together, and then you can bring them back after a set time. But they're going to share all answers, so I'm going to say, okay, who has an answer to this problem? And whatever answer they give, I take. And then I ask, who can defend one of these answers? And hopefully after the turn and talk, somebody is able to defend one of the responses. Okay, and then they have to describe their reasoning, and you're looking for the different representations student have and understanding what the purpose of the number talk is, because some of them are breaking things down for the lesson that's coming, and others are trying to point out a specific strategy that they will use in the lesson. And Jeremy, thank you for saying scribe exactly what they say. That's what you would do in a person, okay? Virtually, we are adapting it. And I'm going to show you how you can adapt it because we're going to participate in one too. And I think that this NTI is a huge opportunity to get a lot of interaction and conversation with students using number talks. So I'm really excited to see what happens as we progress. So one of those options is to use the Jamboard. You post the problem, and students are going to share their responses and their reasoning. So it's posted, students respond, and then you can call out specific strategies. So like this strategy was one, and a lot of people agreed with her. So you see I agree, I did the same thing, and so we highlight that strategy. And then down here at the bottom, if there's a feedback question I'm wanting them to ask and think about for the next prompt, I can call it out and use the Post-its and say, well, could I do this? Is this possible? And so I can push their thinking further by calling that out on the Jamboard. And students are still learning from each other. So they can give feedback to each other on the Jamboard. So like this student said, I didn't think of that strategy, but now I want to use it. And so hopefully on the next prompt, they'll have the opportunity to try that strategy. And that's the whole purpose of a number talk, is for them to see the different strategies and then try it out on their own when they go to the next problem.
Can I ask what a Jamboard is?
A Jamboard is just basically like a big whiteboard that you can put a bunch of Post-its on it. It's a way to collaborate.
Now, is that an actual, is that an app?
It's through the Google Suite.
All right, Google Suite. All right, thank you.
So when you go to your waffle in the top right corner, you may have to select more, but it's on there. It's an orange J, and you're gonna get to experience one, so you'll get to see how you can use it. Okay.
Thanks.
And then what I'm really excited about is the Flipgrid, because Flipgrid has been approved for middle school and higher. It's ages 13 and higher, you're good to go. If they're less than 13, you need a permission slip, which you have to have on file. But using Flipgrid, the teacher will post the prompt, so the first one, and then students using their phone or their Chromebook, they will video record themselves responding to that prompt. It gets posted, and then other students can see that prompt, you can see that prompt, and you use another video to go back. So it's kind of creating a synchronous session, but asynchronously, because you're doing video chat back and forth, and it's being recorded. So you're having this conversation back and forth just at different times throughout the day. So this is just one way that a teacher did that. You can see the number of responses. There were 7 responses, but 57 views and 9/10 of an hour of engagement on just that one number talk. And you can give feedback. So you can give verbal feedback by making a video, or I think you can even type it out and give like a thumbs up, thumbs down. So if you use a number talk in Flipgrid, I highly recommend using it with a Flipgrid. I think that would be the easiest. It is a little bit of technology. You have to learn how to use it, but it is usable and we can use that now. Yes, I can't answer that question, Jeremy. But if you can get the permission slip and the registration paperwork, that would just be one other less piece of paper you have to get. So we're going to try one. So I'm going to display a problem. Yes, Jamboard is on students' Google account. It is in the Google Suite that we're allowed to use. So that's one thing I'm showing you. Whatever I'm showing you in this routine, these routines and stuff, you are allowed to use. They are approved by JCPS, so that's all taken care of. Okay. So here we go. On the Jamboard, you're going to use a yellow Post-it to share your strategy on finding the value of X. As others post their strategies, you're going to switch to a green Post-it to provide feedback or comments. Stay on the first slide with me. I don't want you to move on until I say so. So stay on that first slide with me. Okay? Questions about what color Post-it you're going to use to respond?
Is it straightforward to find out like how to find a Post-it and get the yellow Post-it?
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go to the Jamboard and I'll show you on my screen before I release you. Okay.
Okay, so should I be going to your slide presentation?
Yep, you're going to need to be on slide 21 or 20. Sorry.
Slide 20.
Mm-hmm. And you see this orangish yellow Jamboard. Looks like a J.
Maybe I'm not in the right place. No, I'm on Google Docs, but I don't have.
Okay, so let me open it, and then I will just copy the link and put it in the chat so you guys can get to it.
Okay.
There it is. Thank you, Todd, also for posting that quickly. So when you open it, this is what the Jamboard looks like. You see the prompt I have at the top. On the left-hand side, I have a pen, an eraser, my selector tool, and then here's my sticky notes. So I'm going to select my sticky note, and I have to figure out how to solve 16x equals 176. I'll type what my response is in yellow, and then click save. And then my sticky note went onto the Jamboard. I just click off of this little box there, and it will take me out. So then you can see your response. If I'm ready to respond to others, then along the top, I can change my color to the green that I will need. Okay. As a teacher, I can choose a totally different color, so I'm going to respond in blue just so you guys know that those are mine. Okay. So I'm going to release you for 2 to 3 minutes for you to respond to the prompt and then respond to each other's answers on the screen.
Open up a new Jamboard. We have to share it and then get the shareable link and then just send that, post that for our students.
Well, for students, yes. And you need to make sure that it's editable. They have to be able to edit. And the edit allows them to move their Post-its around.
I'm sorry, Sarah, my internet went wonky, and then now it just came back on.
It's okay.
Yeah, I actually got kicked out of Zoom and had to rejoin. All right, where's the problem?
It is right here.
All right, because I'm on the Jamboard.
And you're on slide 1?
I had to download the app.
Really?
Yeah, So, where's the problem?
So on the Jamboard in the middle, it's not on the
Okay.
Post-it or anything. It just says 16x equals 176.
Oh, I got you.
I am not on my Jamboard. It says nothing. I keep going back, and it's not anything there.
Taking real long time to load too.
Yeah, and that part of that is the more people that are on the internet and that are logging onto the Jamboard, it does sometimes take a while for it to pop up. That is true. So, can you at least see my screen though, if it's not on your screen? Okay, so you're seeing,
I've got it.
so you see how this can work. Okay?
Yeah.
So, some strategies that I see divide both sides by 16, and I see that's used a couple of different times. Can someone unmute or type in the chat why we decided to divide both sides by 16?
Because 16 is the coefficient.
Okay.
So what we had to do was we had to do the inverse operation. And currently, because the coefficient next to the variable is being multiplied, the inverse of multiplication is division. So we have to divide both sides by division to make sure both sides are still balanced out.
Oh, I love how you said that word balance. So you did it to both sides because we were maintaining that balance of the equation. And I love the word of the inverse operation. I love how you described it for me. Does everybody know what an inverse operation is? You can give me thumbs up, yes. Thumbs down if you need it to be explained again. Okay, good, good. Can someone explain who did this one? 16 times 10 equals 160 and 16 times 1 equals 16?
That was me.
Kathleen, tell me more about that one.
Well, I learned about the splitting strategy, and I know that 160 is inside of 176, so I have to get there somehow with 16s. So 16 times 10, and then I realized it was another 16 added on. So the 10 16s and one more, that told me that X was 11.
Oh, fantastic. And do you see how, does anybody see the distributive property worked into her example there? How we split the 10 and the 1, and if we distribute those to the 16, then we get the 160 and the 16. Excellent explanation.
Once you wrote your sticky, how do you paste it?
Okay, so I'm here. You see where my cursor is on this pop out? Just go off to the side of it and click out of it, and it'll take you back to the Jamboard.
Show that again.
Okay. So here's the box I have to write in.
Yeah.
When I'm done, I just come out off to the side and click.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm doing it on my phone, and it's a little.
It's much
clicky.
smaller.
Yeah. Yeah, and it. Yeah.
All right, so I really love this strategy that Kathleen did. I'm hoping that maybe some of us try that on the next prompt. So here's our new prompt. We have 16x equals 8. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to use your yellow Post-it to provide your answer and your reasoning. And then once you have yours posted, please use the green Post-its to respond to others. So on this one, excellent. Look at these. I love the use of the fact families. This is one that your students will use. They are very familiar with their fact families. So tell me, how does this connect to some of the strategies that others have used? You can type or unmute in chat.
I always use fact families because it's easy for the kids to write it out, and they always remember that if they're doing whatever operation, it has to be 2 of each one. So if they're adding or subtracting, and there's 2 addition, 2 subtraction, then multiplication, division, same thing. And so when they get confused on throwing in a variable, it always helps them when they see the 2 numbers finally match up on the same side, and then they can find the answer a lot easier that way.
Okay, excellent. And that's, I see a lot of people just said, well, I know that 8 is half of 16. Students know that because of those fact families, all the work that they did in elementary. And then relating this is just only going to help them build that vocab of the inverse operation and how to do, if you do something to a variable, then you can undo it by doing the inverse. Excellent. So you see how you can use a Jamboard to respond to the number talk, okay? So this is only 2 problems in the progression. You should do all of the pieces of the progression, and you'll see how we keep going further and further down. So 16x equals 1, then we have 1/5 x equals 1, and then 2/5 x equals 1. This is a 6th grade number talk. It is setting them up for dividing fractions. So the whole purpose of this, because what's going to happen is here, they're going to have to draw a picture or something. Just writing words, they won't be able to do it. So they're going to draw a picture, and that's going to help talk about tape diagrams and double number lines and how many fifths are in a hole. So if there's 5 fifths in one hole and I only have 1 of those, then I would need 5 in order to make 1, which then sets them up here and going to that unit fraction. Okay, so all the number talks have a purpose. And if once you understand the purpose of the number talk, it makes it easier to know, did I need to do this second prompt? Or could I have just skipped that and gone here because we were ready for it? But you have to know the purpose, and there's always a purpose, and it's always connected to that day's lesson. This is where you're going to build in a lot of those basic skills. So we talked about those fact families here. That was excellent, knowing that 8 is half of 16. Those are basic computation skills that our students should know, and we can highlight those through these number routines. So I want you to think about what you just experienced and think about NTI. And would you do this asynchronously, meaning people would work on it at different times, or would you do this synchronously? And you can either unmute and talk out, or you can chat in the chat box.
It really gives you the option to do both.
Tell me more.
I mean, you know, it's one of those, if you're doing it synchronously, then you're getting that immediate response. But really not knowing, you know, even if you do it synchronously, if you have students that didn't make it to that session and it's still there, they can go add to it, you know, if they happen to have overslept and missed the synchronous session or anything there. Or you could do it as a start before that so that you can move into that material and discuss it when they get to a class session.
Yes. Excellent. I love it.
I agree with Jeremy too, but it also might be if you did it asynchronously, someone could log in and say, well, what he said. And then they wouldn't be as prompted to show their thinking if it's different. So they might be like, ooh, Jeremy's idea is good. I'm gonna go with that.
Yes, and they will, because they're middle school students, right? So we have to train them, and that's why, if you notice, I used the blue Post-its, and some of them I said, tell me more. What do you mean by this? Like, what strategy, what were you thinking in your head? And that's when you would reach out to that student and ask them to expand further. Question, does the teacher have to be in the Jamboard for students to engage in small groups? No, because you have this link. You can go in whenever I'm not there, and you can work on it just like you would in Google Slides or Google Docs. So as long as you have the link, anybody can be in and moving things around, so, and commenting on it. That's why I really like the thinking of how you can use Flipgrid, because then they can respond asynchronously. And I know one of the teachers talked about how her students really like the videos because they get to see each other, but they're not doing it at the same time. And so I highly recommend the use of Flipgrid with this. I think it would be awesome. We can help work through that with you if that's an option you want to work with. Right? But you're correct. You can do both of these synchronously or asynchronously. It's however you would want to try it. Okay, last but not least, we wanted to see stronger but clearer. So I'm going to take you here. I think, oh, no, I'm not. Hang on. I got to get to a different slide deck. That's the one I did not copy. But talk about in the chat, we'll do a silent chat on this. In the chat, talk about notice and wonder and what doesn't belong and how you can adapt those for the use of during NTI. So notice and wonder, you just ask students, what do you notice, what do you wonder, to get the conversation going. What doesn't belong, there's 4 pictures, equations, expressions, and each of them have a reason as to why they would not belong to the group. That's kind of the gist of those 2 routines. So talk about in the chat how you could adapt those for the use during NTI. So this is something we used in our JCPS Year 1 IM Academy. We talked about the purpose of assessment, and I'm going to explain how I set it up. The slide is actually a picture that I made as the background. That allowed so that students could not move the boxes or change the colors, and it was just in one spot. The student inserts a text box, then they can start typing, okay? The purpose of Stronger and Clearer is to allow a person to first do a pre-write, then to have a conversation and share their thinking with a peer, then to get feedback and maybe refine what they originally wrote. Then they will switch and work with another partner. and share their pre-write, get some more feedback, have some more conversation, and then they go back and they create their final response. So it's an opportunity to get a brainstorm thinking down, something that you're just thinking, then to go and talk and communicate with your peers, get some feedback, and refine your final response. So we created this background with 4 boxes, and in the group, I had a slide deck with everybody's name and what slide they went with. Now keep in mind, we didn't have more than 25 in our group. So if you just try and randomly do this without knowing who's coming to your breakout session, it will have some issues there, okay? Because they knew what slide number they were. So if I was slide 5, I open my slide deck and I'm gonna go down to slide 5. So on slide 5, I have to answer what is the purpose of an assessment. So my initial definition is to find out what students know. So that's all I can think of at the moment. That's all I know of what the purpose of assessment is. After about 2 minutes, then virtually to do this, we went to the next slide. So my response is on slide 5. But in order to learn more about somebody else's response, I just moved forward 1 to slide 6. So I copied mine. So copy my response. And in slide 6, under Peer 1 response, that's where I went and I pasted my response. After I pasted mine, I went back and read what the person before had typed. So they said it's for students to demonstrate their level of mastery of a given topic or skill. Oh, okay, yeah, I like how they said mastery. So I'm making a note to add mastery to my definition. So definitely want to add that next time. Then to rotate to the next partner to get feedback, I would just went to the next slide. I pasted in peer response 2. Then I read the pre-write of that person and then their peers' feedback. And then I can take what they wrote and add to my definition. So demonstrate their level. Oh yeah, I got that. And then progress to see where they are with mastery or if we need to go back and reteach. Oh, so not only find out what they know, but what they don't know. Okay, so now remember I was slide 5. So I went back to slide 5. And this is where, in the green box, I would write my final response. And then I type my response. That is the stronger and clearer routine adapted for the virtual environment. There were a lot of steps there. Yes, I know.
So it just moves in a clockwise fashion around those. Yep, okay.
Or if you wanted to go backwards, you could do that too. But the main thing is that students know what number they are, so they know what slide to start with. Okay, and then these directions are all in our JCPS Year 1 slides, so that you can access that too. And we'll help you if you want to try this with your students. We can come and help you do this virtually with your students as well, because I know that is a lot of steps, for them to remember and what to do. And so we can help facilitate that. What other questions do you have about the stronger and clearer? Okay.
So with that, would you just automatically, tell the students that for your peer 1, you're going to go to the next slide, or do you let them choose?
I would tell them that they need to go to the next slide because I want to make sure that every student gets some feedback. If I let them choose, the likelihood that they get some feedback or see another response is less likely. That's totally up to you. You can, how we do clock partners when we're in the brick and mortar setting, you can have them have those and maybe they work with that partner at this time. It's all about how you want to organize it so that it makes sense and you can follow along. Okay. Okay. So the great thing about these is you don't have to create them. because you're all IM schools. So they're already built into your program. Just when you get to them, you just have to think about how can I adapt this for the NTI environment, and what tool do I want to use so that my students can have access to it. So that takes us to the end of our time. What questions do you have for me?
Is this something you do at the beginning of the class? Or is this something that you bring out later in your lesson?
It depends on which routine you're doing. So the number sense routines are usually almost always a warm-up. So that's your launch for the lesson. The math language routines, the info gap, and the stronger and clearer, those are supports within the program. So if you know that there's a definition that students are going to have a hard time with, that may be the appropriate time to bring out the stronger and clearer so that they can make sense of that. In an NTI world, you're going to have to determine if you want to do this asynchronously or synchronously. My personal opinion is that these are great things to do asynchronously so that when you're with students live, you can get to the meat of the lesson and then they can be working on these in the background.
Sarah, do you work for the district or?
Yes, I'm the middle school math instructional lead.
Okay.
And then Casey Watson is my coach. He returns on the 7th. So once he's back, then we can split our time and work with a lot more PLCs and teachers. So if you want help with any of these and during NTI or even in the classroom, you just have to let us know and we'll come out and help.
All right. This is my first year as a math teacher. I've taught social studies for 18 years. So.
Yeah, so if you need any help at any time, just don't hesitate to email us. Okay?
Okay. Is it Sarah.Downs?
Yes, and there's no H on my name. It's S-A-R-A.
Right.
Okay? Okay, if there's no other questions, you guys are free to go to your next session. There is that AIS reflection sheet that's due at some point. I'm just told to remind you. But that's all I have for today.
Sarah, was there a sign-in?
Not with me, no. I think there's maybe one with AIS. I don't know all the details.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And this is recorded, so I can go back and see who's here. So.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Yep.
Bye.
And Sarah, just so you know, that AIS sign-in they're talking about actually puts in there, you just submit one at the end by the end of the day on Friday.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification on that. I appreciate you guys. Thank you. Bye.